Cool. So, welcome along to Where's My Sports At podcast. Today, we're interviewing Katrina Rore, former Silver Ferns captain, and who used to play goal keep, goal defence, and wing defence, and probably every other position I'd say as well. Katrina uh, also has played 137 caps for the Silver Ferns and captained our country very admirably and very proudly. And also played for Central Pulse, 150 caps, New South Wales Swift, 7 caps, Southern Steel, 27 caps, 13 for the Otago Rebels, and 6 for the Canterbury Flames. So, Katrina, quite a CV you've got there, mate. Welcome along, and thank you so much for coming to join with us today.
Cool, thank you. Sheba's been around, eh?
Awesome career. Very, very cool.
Thanks. I'll take it.
So, we're going to start off with here, Katrina. When did you first get into netball, and what's your first netball memory?
Okay, first was when I was probably 8 or 9. My sister played. Is that how far back you want me to go? Because she goes back quite far. My sister played. She's 18 months older than me. And if you're a younger sibling, you know exactly what it's like. You want to be just like older sister, older brother, or do whatever they do. So as soon as I knew she was playing, I'm all about it. And I jumped in there. And my earliest memory was we lived in Beachlands in Auckland and we had to go to Maraetai to train. And my sister and I would fight, and mum would make us walk home until we until we stopped bickering. Yeah, so I feel like the early days were the best when you just kind of ran around the court for warm up, played with your friends, passing, catching, but it was all mainly just mucking around, having a good time. He's peas to a honey pot of just chasing the ball and doing whatever you wanted to do. So yeah, that was cheapers. That was a long time ago now.
Yeah, chucking it around and doing the old half court shots when you could
Yeah, the
too.
half court shots, yeah.
Yeah, someone would always get it in every time.
Or
Just like,
eventually.
yeah. Now, did you play any other sports along your journey, Katrina? I've always wondered that about you.
I tried to play every sport under the sun. So I played soccer or football before I played netball, and I loved it. If my sister played that, I probably would have carried on with that. And then we always would do athletics, and at our small primary school, mainly like rugby, but I was the only girl playing at the time. Those were back in the days when women's and girls' teams weren't a thing. Yeah, I just try to do whatever was available. I'd put my hand up for it. I loved playing touch in summer. Tried basketball and volleyball and all that, but netball stuck mainly.
Very cool. Very cool. And what motivated you to pursue a career in netball?
It was weird. It was from the age of 12. I think it must have been the 1999 World Cup I watched on TV, and I was glued to it. I'm in like the little basement of our house, and old school TV, we had to push the buttons to change the channel. This is really showing my age, isn't it? I remember watching on TV1 and just like loving it, just thought it was amazing. And so from the age of 12, I made like my first rep team, how Pakaranga made the under 15 side. And from then I was like, yep, this is me, this is what I want to do. And yeah, I don't know. It's like it's stuck in my head from then.
And so, like, when did the penny drop for you when you go, I can do this? I can do this.
No, it's weird. From 12, I had no shit. I was like, I can definitely do this. It was yeah, it was weird. And then I went through school and I changed high schools halfway through I went to Howard College to start with, and then I changed over to Auckland Girls Grammar. And from there is when I made we were able to go to like New Zealand secondary schools and made New Zealand under 21s, and it just kind of escalated from there, fortunately.
And do you remember your first time there where you're going, I've cracked it, or the first time you've made a team there that was the most meaningful to you? Do you remember that first conversation that you've made the team?
It's weird. I remember the first conversation of when I made New Zealand secondary schools. I remember the first conversation of making New Zealand under 21s. Like I was at school and our sports coordinator came up to me and was like, Tiara Hakinen, who was the coach at the time, was on the telephone for you to say you've made the New Zealand under 21 squad. So even that, remembering that from school, and then just remember when I first made the Ferns, like I was living in Dunedin at the time, studying, and I'd just gone to a Ferns camp, and I was on the shuttle on the way back from the airport to Dunedin town, which is about a 25-minute drive. If no one knows it, it's a pain. And Ruth Aiken rings me up and said, you've made the team for the first time. And, myself and the shuttle driver had our own little, dance party. in the shuttle. So it's a kind of it's awesome how you remember such obviously the big moments if you remember them when you get old like me.
And do you remember your first test appearance for the Silver Ferns and how that felt for you?
Yep, definitely. It's I remember it was against Australia. It was in 2008 and I was Y Tamanu was the assistant coach at the time and she came into my room and told me I was going to start at goal defense and I was shitting myself, but it was awesome. Like I got the opportunity, ran on. Um yeah, again, it's crazy how you remember the exact time and where you were and how you were placed and everything of even when you're getting a starting spot or yeah, on the debut as well.
Man. And when you first got made captain of the Silver Ferns for you, like you've gone through, done all the hard yakka, made the provincial teams, made the national teams, and then now you're captain of the Silver Ferns. Like, what was that like? That must have been such an honor.
Yeah, it was a bit yeah, it was a weird honor because I when asked and you're like, oh, are you sure? It's just not really I don't really know how to put it. Yeah. Don't even know if you're made for that type of thing or if you're not or if you grow into it or if you learn how to, or you just don't even really realize. I was fortunate enough to be a vice captain for a few times before that, being captain of the Pulse, so I kind of had some grasp on how to do it. But I feel like when you get to that level, being a captain isn't really, you share the role a lot. It's you kind of just I suppose, the face of it rather than really stamping your mark as the leader. Probably just a face of the team or a face of a pinnacle event of confronting the media type thing. But it was definitely my time as captain wasn't the rosiest time with the Commonwealth Games in 2018 when we didn't medal. So it's definitely a difficult time when it's not as successful as you would hope it to be, but it's still a massive privilege to be able to do that. And I learnt so much about myself and the team and how things are run and how much goes on behind the scenes of teams and sports organizations than what you ever think of as just like a newbie coming in and being a player.
Yeah, so tell me about that with the behind the scenes side of things. Like, how does it work? That's one thing I've always wondered. Like you get the kit bag, it just turns up. You got people
If
running
only.
around and yeah, driving you around, all that sort of stuff. Is it as fancy as it seems on TV, or is it a lot of hard work goes into it?
It's definitely not as fancy as it seems, but it is fun. Like, don't get me wrong, it's awesome, but it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of time in hotels, a lot of time in buses and shuttles to and from training venues, to and from airports, hotels, like driving from there constantly in the morning, the afternoon, and at nighttime. But it's great. But again, as captain, there's a lot more meetings, a lot more phone calls, a lot more kind of discussions before and after tours, a lot more interviews, a bucket load more
Yeah,
interviews, a lot more pressure. But it's great. Like it's an experience for sure, and there's no way I'd take it back.
yeah. I always found when watching you play, Katrina, felt you thrived in a leadership role.
Yeah, I
That's
did.
just
I
from the
definitely,
outsider
and
looking
yeah.
in.
I've
Yeah,
I've learned along the way of like a leadership style and who I am. And I think at the beginning, when I first became captain of the Pulse, I was quite young, with older players in the side who are already, established leaders in their own right. I think I found that difficult to understand what I was and what kind of leader I was going to be compared to, say, them and what they needed or what they wanted. I found I struggled on that. But the more you're thrown into those environments and those situations, the more the real you is going to show up and start to come through and you understand yourself better as well. So definitely a lot of mistakes, a lot of learnings, a lot of good times. But yeah, I think the older I got and the more I was more comfortable in my skin and who I was, yeah, I enjoyed being me and thriving off being a competitor and
yeah.
and just wanting to win.
And did you find, because I've always been interested there with like managing your body over that time, did you find there that your training methods changed? You became a lot more focused on some things more than others fitness wise? Because I've always seen when watching the Australians, all of a sudden our fitness isn't quite there. then next time we go and play them, all of a sudden our fitness is there and then some. How's that to manage?
Yeah, it's huge. It's again, it's a learning curve from when you're first in your career to kind of getting a little bit older, being around a little bit longer, understanding what your body needs individually as well as what your body needs for the team. And I think you get a training age and you understand how much training you have and how much time you can actually take off. Like you can't have 2 weeks of absolutely nothing because it's going to be a pain in the ass to come back. So yeah, fitness is huge, and everyone is very individual, especially women in times of the month, in times of the year, and what you need, and shapes, sizes, ethnicity, all of that. We're all so very different in the gym and on the track. So it's good that things are starting to get individualized and really understanding what you need for yourself. Because I remember when I first came in, I was not fit, didn't look athletic, none of that. So I loved it so much that when I went out and was kind of resourceful in what I needed, which I think helped me take my game to the next level.
Wicked. And so, what sort of things did you do individually? Because they talk about extras
Mm.
in sports. What sort of extras did you do?
Yeah, I did extra running a lot, but you have to do it smartly. I try to do it early on in my career, and I'll get stress fractures in my feet. So I think the main part was when I got dropped, in the Ferns, and I went away, and I had a bit of a break, and then I got into like CrossFit. And I felt that was really good for my body as it wasn't just straight pounding the pavements. It was more and training for your whole body of more like I don't know how to explain it, of just pushing your muscles to the next level and more upper body work, potentially like shoulder work, which we don't really focus too much on, and movement, like full body movements. And that helped me a lot and become a lot more athletic and being able to sustain the game of netball. Where if you go for a run and you play netball, it's not the same. Netball stop start, very anaerobic. So that's the kind of thing you need to do to train.
It's very cool. So something I've always wanted to know, just hitting those levels. Thank you, Katrina.
No, you're,
Wicked.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Um, so going over and playing a season in Australia, I've
Mm.
always been interested to hear about that. How did you find that in terms of a culture shift?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was gutted that I didn't get a whole because it was after the World Cup, so I came in for the last 8 weeks. So I didn't get the full season, the full preseason. But I absolutely loved it. If I hadn't already signed for the Pulse the year after, I would have stayed. Definitely would have stayed. They're so very professional. They've got their own setups. For example, playing for the Pulse, we have a great setup there. And there's a sports centre right by the airport where that's where our base is, where our offices are, and where the courts are, where our gym is. And that's huge just to have that for the Pulse. But say in Aussie, you've got your own change room, you've got your own locker, you've got your own hot colds, you have the offices there, the courts are there, the gym is there, everything you need. So just that little bit, they just have that little bit more. They've got more money. And you just found it was like a profession, like every day you're turning up to work and all your stuff is there. That's your office, that's your locker room, everything you need is there. So instead, like we're in NZ, it's more a community centre where it's shared, so you can't just go in and use it whenever you want. And I loved the coach and the management. Yeah, really, and just really enjoyed my time. I feel like they were the perfect team for me to go into, as they were very similar to the Pulse with their culture and how they worked and how they're about the whole player. And I think that's probably why they were so successful.
That's cool. That's cool. It must have been really difficult, thinking about a Kiwi going over and doing that, but you did it admirably and very well.
Oh,
Very good to see.
thanks.
Yeah.
That's
um,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it leads me into the next question I've got here, like becoming a mum.
Mm.
So, it's one of those life-changing moments when you become a parent in life. And how have you found that with managing being a professional athlete?
Well, I haven't done it very well, to be honest, because I potentially have not become a professional athlete again since I tried, but then I got pregnant again. So having Lilybud, had her in 2021, was, yeah, like you say, life changing. all of a sudden it's not about you, it's about this little being that's you've created, which was amazing. And it was cool. Very hard to come back from, no doubt. I thought, jump back into training. I'm used to being fit, and I was like, wow, that's not fit anymore. So I had to do a lot of hard work, and I was fortunate that the Magic, moving from Wellington to Rotorua, Magic gave me a contract, and worked really hard pre-season and enjoyed it, a different environment, different, yeah, people, players, training, everything. And then, yeah, got pregnant with Lola. So I got a whole preseason in, but didn't get to start the season, which, obviously I don't regret because I have another beautiful daughter and I haven't come back since. So, so that's that.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Like it is such a cool thing becoming a parent, and
Mm,
you'll be able to share your experiences with them in the
yes.
coming years. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we're going to have a couple future athletes, I think.
Or you never know. They one looks like she could definitely play rugby, but who knows what the other one's gonna do.
Well, hopefully then the amount of money that goes in starts leveling out. That'd be really good to see in the
Yeah.
coming years.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. I've actually been seeing as well. There's like the pathway for New Zealand netball is it's pretty good. But as you can see with sevens, I think if their pathway gets better, like have a development side and can really have their pathways from young coming into the NZ7 side, I think that's going to take off because I think if sevens was around when I was at school, I would have absolutely loved it.
Yeah, chasing that gold medal, and it brings me
Mm,
up to the Commonwealth Games side of things as well. Chasing that medal, is that if that was in the Olympics for
imagine it.
netball, yeah, you jump at the chance.
Oh yeah, definitely Olympics would be. I think that's also why hockey like and the sevens and that are in the Olympics. It's definitely a huge draw card for a lot of people. Com Games is amazing, like far out. That's cool too. But Olympics is obviously that next level up.
With the Commonwealth Games, the Commonwealth Games village and that sort of thing, what's the atmosphere like there? Because I've always wanted to know what goes on behind the scenes.
It's cool. So I've been to went to Delhi was my first one in 2010, which we won, which was flipping awesome. Hugely different to going to Glasgow 4 years later and then to the Gold Coast 4 years after that. So it just seemed to have, like India wasn't quite complete. The village, there was a few buildings still not done, and you didn't really want to eat everything in the dining room. You weren't sort of going to get sick, so you had to be very careful there. Shipped a whole lot of stuff over. Weren't really allowed to leave the village. And those kinds of things. And then Glasgow was they did that really well. Thoroughly enjoyed that. It's just a huge buzz, you've seen athletes everywhere you look from all walks of life, and that was cool. And then obviously Gold Coast being close to home, having a pinnacle event there when your family and friends can come over, visit you at the village and play there as well is yeah, it's freaking awesome. And three totally different experiences.
And who was your favorite athlete to see there in person? Who like
Usain
buzzed you
Bolt.
out?
Usain
Yeah,
Bolt, he was going down. We had a few injuries in Glasgow, which was unfortunate. So we always took the back road because we had to wheel them on trolleys and all that kind of jazz just to get into the bus to get to games. And he was always take that route because he didn't want to be seen. So we were fortunate enough to bump into him. I asked him for a photo. He was obviously very not overly excited because he's always getting asked for photos, but he was nice enough to give our whole team a photo. Which yeah, impressive fastest man ever, right? So not bad.
that's that's awesome. That's
Yeah, it
awesome.
was cool.
Was he real nice as well? I've always wondered
He
that
was
about him.
nice, but real, a smart ass as well, because he knows he's the man. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's like, yeah,
And
I take a photo, I'm gonna go now.
yeah, and then challenge you to a race and go, I'm gonna win.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. That's us. We had wheelchairs, so we'll be sweet.
Yeah. So looking back over your career, what do you think there was your biggest challenge that you've had personally with netball?
I definitely would have been the Gold Coast. So from Com Games, going in there as captain, not medaling, just a bit of a shambles all round, with losing to Malawi in pool play, which we'd never done before. I had a big blow up on national television crying, and
Oh,
then I we came back, and then like a tour later, I got dropped. So, that 2018 year for me was really was difficult. Probably not even realizing how mentally draining that all was on me and not really understanding what I was going through and how to get myself out of it. So that was a challenging year and needed a lot of support to get through that. Didn't get a huge amount probably from the environment I should have got it from, but I was lucky that I had an external environment that helped me a lot through that, and then it turned into a positive 2019. So fortunate to get through it and come out the other side and make amends.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to say on that with the Com Games, Katrina, like I know there that it was hard for you to go on national TV straight after the game, because you're such a competitor, and I just want to say, like from a fan's perspective, seeing someone there that put everything into a game, it was massive as
Mm.
a sports fan. So I just want to commend you for doing that, because that just shows, like, how much it meant to you and how much it meant
Mm.
to the team. So yeah, don't ever think there that people were making fun of you because of it. We really want to support you because we know how hard you battled.
Oh, thank you. It's
Yeah.
it's yeah. I don't think also people realize like at a pinnacle event the amount of stress you're actually put under constantly through the whole, so many games and so many days. I ended up by the end of Com Games, I think I had lost 4 or 5 kilos from
Oh,
the sheer I didn't really probably realize that I was quite anxious and the amount that was going on behind the scenes of what was happening and with the performances and what ended up happening. You just don't even realize that sometimes you potentially because in a village as well, it's probably a couple of Ks to the bus. So you're constantly walking, you're potentially not eating enough because I have to go into the dining hall to get food, so fueling your body, everything like that is all just piles up on you as well. So and then then you lose a game and you go straight on national television, you know how emotions get so high as well. So yeah, a lot of factors put into
yeah.
one is not ideal all the time.
Yeah, and like on that, do you find, because we were talking in our group, we are thinking there, like, do you find there that it's okay for reporters and things to come up and ask you at halftime, like when you're blowing everything on the court, like you've gone as hard as you can, and I know there that with yourself as an athlete, you're going 110%. You're not going 50% or 40% like
Mm.
the average person like me would go. Do you find there that that's hard to get interviewed, like straight after you've just put everything in?
It is hard to process what has just happened and try and put it into words straight away. That's especially because you're dehydrated. You know what I mean? Like you've just exerted so much energy. Your heart rate is still fairly high. You're still half the time puffing, sweating. So to put into words of what has just happened. So when they ask tactical questions, it's like, can you please not? Because I can't remember. Sometimes they ask you who's I think I remember one time I got asked who was the best on court, and I was like, flip, I have no idea. I threw a name out there, and someone's like, I think she played about 5 minutes. I'm like, see, that's what I mean. I wasn't paying attention because you just don't even. But again, Sky, for example, Sky Television, they pay the wages. So they if that's what they want, if we want to still get paid, if it's a professional sport, it's one of those things where you need to do a bit of give and take as well. So the audience wants to see that. So you want to give them as much as you can, and you try and give them as much as you can, even though sometimes it's probably not enough. And sometimes you just cannot be asked like answering questions or dealing with public or anything. But you have to remember that people are going to remember that no matter how you feel. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things you just you're a professional athlete, deal with it.
Yeah. I always wonder whether if they give you like a little oxygen mask afterwards, you just
Oh
have a
yeah,
quick blow and go, yep, I'm good.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be nice. Even just to even give you time to have I know some water even is just to get your breath to do something is definitely important.
Yeah. So leads me into the next thing here. Who's been your favorite teammate to play with?
Oh yeah, that's hard.
I know, I've got a good one.
That's hard. Like I've had a lot of fun with teammates. Like there's just teammates that you'd always have in your team. For example, like Te Hungarao, Selby Ricketts, you would have her in your team. Sully Fitzpatrick, you always have her in your team. Like those types of people are just amazing team people. The best combination I probably had on court was Casey Korpua. Her and I loved playing with her. She was just awesome to play with. I've got great friends like Bailey Mez and Claire Kirsten over the last few years. Awesome people to play with. Catherine Lato is probably one of the funniest people you have in your team as well. Um, yeah, that's a hard one. Just I've come across such great people though throughout my career. I'm very fortunate. Laura Langman, you can't go past her. She's a character in her in her own right.
Yeah,
Um,
she's from
yeah,
where
I've
I'm
been
from.
around a
I'm
long time, so there's a lot of people like Jodie Brown and also I've become good friends with managers along the way, like Esther Melba, who's the Silver Ferns manager, has been the manager most of my career. Like now she's a good friend of mine. It's just yeah, there's lots of people around that you love, and I love going to Sydney and having those Aussie girls like Paige Hadley and stuff as wingmen. You play against them, and then they're all of a sudden your friend and teammate. So yeah, that was off the top of my head. But yeah, obviously great
it's all
people
good.
if they're the first people that come to mind.
So next one here, what advice would you give to aspiring netball players out there?
Probably to always try and have fun with it because I feel like once you lose the fun and lose the passion and lose the reason you play, it gets boring and becomes a job. And you need to enjoy the people you're playing with. You need to enjoy the coaching side of it. You need to enjoy um, most of it to be able to want to do it and to be able to perform. Like if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to perform very well, are you? So yeah, as long as you keep some sort of fun in there, yeah, that's a huge one for me because as soon as I lost the fun, I didn't want to be there anymore. And as soon as I get the joy back, then it's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. And I'm sure lots of young ones out there hearing that will be going, wicked, keep it
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, have fun. Yeah, can't
And
lose sight of that.
now you've finished playing professional netball, what are your future plans and what are you doing now?
I'm mum life at the moment. Yeah, probably going to. I haven't really set in stone exactly what our future life looks like right now. I'm just enjoying the moment, enjoying my young girls, looking after them. Yeah, maybe come back to me in about 6 months to a year's time, and I'll potentially have some answers for you. Yeah, I'm just being a mum right now. It's
Well,
good. It's nice. It's a nice change.
hopefully, yeah, if we get big enough, Katrina, we'll go, hey, come
Yeah,
join
yeah, yeah.
us.
I'll interview anyone for you guys.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'll be like 6 months time. I'll be like, hey, how I said you came.
Keen.
So,
It's us.
yeah,
Give me something to
yeah,
do.
yeah. We've and well, last question before I go into like what we sort of do, have you ever been interested in coaching?
No. Oh, I haven't been interested in like coaching the team fully, completely been in charge of the whole like everybody, all ends, the whole lot. But like I would love to do specialist coaching, for example, like the defensive end, that's what I know. Because I wouldn't even try and coach a full team on how to shoot and how to all that jazz. That's way over my head. But the defense end is what I love and what I enjoy. And I think also defenders we've got a different mindset. You're not a defender when you meet one, I think, anyways. I feel like you're on the same page and you understand what it's like to be a defender. So yeah, that's probably what I would love to do.
That's very cool. That's very cool. So that ends our interview portion, Katrina. So
Cool.
thank you so much for coming along. Really appreciate your time, and I know there that for me it's one of those dreams come true to get to interview yourself. So
Oh,
very cool.
that's nice.